Hi everybody, my name is Bookie and I'm here for the Good Eve channel. And today I'm going to be talking about 6 things I cut from my budget, but I don't miss. So, what I'm discussing in this video is, cutbacks. Sometimes in life, you just get to a stage where you're just adding on bills and bills and bills and bills. And I get so frustrated when I just see that I'm working so hard. Where did my money go? So sometimes, every so often, I'll look through my finances and I'll say and ask myself some big fundamental questions. Do I need this expense? Do I need to be spending so much money on this? Can I do without it, or can I get value through another way without having to spend on this? I mean, look, little drops of water make the ocean, and too many little drops of bills coming out of your account and out of your money affects your business to make your ability to make headway. So from time to time, I cut things out. So I just thought I would share with you today 6 things I actually cut from my budget that I really don't miss, and see what you think of them. Now remember, this is just my opinion. If it doesn't work for you, you know what, leave it. But the ones that do work for you, that you've been thinking about, maybe this will give you an opportunity to say, now I'm going to take the plunge and let go of this thing. Let me just try and see if I can live without it for a month or two. And then all of a sudden you begin to realize that, you know what, I really don't need it. So let's get straight to the video. But before we do that, I want to ask you to hit that like button. Give us a like, please subscribe. And because I'm giving you 6 things that I cut from my budget and don't miss, I want you to give us 6 shares. Share this video with 6 people, please. They may also have things they need to cut from their budget, because the truth is, cutting of budget happeneth to us all. Thank you, and let me get on to the first thing I cut from my budget that I don't miss. So the first thing that I cut out was I stopped tri-weekly grocery shopping. Tri-weekly grocery shopping means going to the supermarket 3 times a week. I stopped it. Sometimes at home, you're on your way home, your kids call you, my kids call me, I love them, and they're like, Mommy, can we have this? Mommy, can we have that? Oh, Mommy, we've run out of juice. Oh, Mommy, we've run out of this. And the first thing I do is, well, there's a supermarket on my way as I'm driving into my estate, so it's really easy. There are 3 of them, actually. I'll just stop and pick up what they need. But I found that every time I go into the supermarket, does this happen to you? I can never just get that one item. I end up getting 10 or 15 things. And I began to quickly realize that I was spending through my food budget. 2 weeks, it's done. And what did I buy? I've bought a lot of junk, because I'm helping them stop to maybe get plantain chips, or just get a snack that they want to take to school, or get ketchup because they've run out of ketchup. And I end up buying ketchup and salad dressing, and they're having frozen croissants, let me get that. And I end up buying so many different things that I just don't need. And because of the frequency with which I was going to the supermarket, it was having a multiplier effect negatively on my food budget. So I stopped that. And what I do now is, so we have fresh items that we have to buy like at least every 10 days, like broccoli, like cauliflower, like eggplant. We also do squash and pumpkin and things like that. So those vegetables usually in a fridge will last us about 10 days to 2 weeks. So we try and buy those so that try and buy a volume of those that would last us for 2 weeks. We use a food timetable, so it's predictable at my house. And then for bulk items like tissue paper and cleaning detergent and laundry detergent and things like that, we try and buy those at a 3-month interval. So sometimes when my children ask me in between the week, oh, Mommy, we need ketchup. There's no ketchup. The answer is no. I'm not going to go to a supermarket more than once in 2 weeks. I don't want to risk it. I will not go. So with things like that, I just won't go. We'll just learn to do without them. And guess what I've discovered? My kids have understood that sometimes there's ketchup, sometimes there's not. And if there isn't and there's another alternative in the house, they get very creative and they just consume the alternative. And it's helped us also to make sure that there's so much food in the fridges sometimes, in the freezers. We get to focus on finishing what we have before we go out and get more. And so that's been very helpful in terms of managing our food budget. So I don't miss it. In fact, I'm really, really grateful for that change. Plus the stress of having to carry grocery bags and unpack them 3 times a week was just was just unnecessary. So many benefits from changing that. Okay, the second one I would say is in my estate, we had like a country club and a social club, and my husband and my family were members of it. And I won't say that it was so terribly expensive. It's much more expensive than another club. So we're a member of two country clubs. And so fortunately, the estate club, I say fortunately for us, got repossessed and taken over. And so as a result, we lost access to this country club, even though it had some money of ours that we had paid for we paid for our membership for the year, and then we had put some money in, like on credit so we could buy things. But you know what? I have to say, I don't miss the club. I thought I would. I'd be sad and devastated, but I don't miss the fact, which means to me, we could have actually gone without having subscribed to that club. Maybe a little thing that I miss is that they had a swimming pool and my children were learning to swim and they were practicing swimming there. But the other club we're a member of has a swimming pool, and recently I've just discovered another hotel where I can just pay for swimming lessons and give my children access to swim. So I really don't miss the club. I have to say that. That's been interesting. And so that was just an unnecessary expense. So we've cut that out and we're good. All right, a third one that we cut out this year or last year was, no, not this year. We've cut this out for years. Smartphone upgrades on a yearly basis. So earlier in our careers, probably like 15 years ago, phone technology was changing all the time. And so I remember my husband loves phones and loves playing around with technology and using it and mastering it. And so he would change his phone almost every 3 months. And so I remember sitting down and saying, look, this is a lot of money we're spending on phones. And phones were way more affordable then compared to even now. But I remember about 10 years ago, about 10 or 11 years ago, I now said, okay, sweetheart, I'll take the responsibility of buying you a phone whenever it's time to change your phone. But I need you to think about, waiting at least a year or two before you change your phones. And one thing that's been interesting is since we've taken that approach, like for instance, I'm happy to use a phone for 3 years, sometimes even longer. I think there's an S9 I'm using, and I'm pretty sure that phone is almost 4 years old. It has such little memory. I think it has 64 gig on it. And for a smartphone, that's getting to be tiny. There are phones that have 1 terabyte or 512 gigabytes of memory. So, but what's interesting is taking the decision to use phones as long as possible, at least 2 years, pushing it to 3-4 years. We've enjoyed the savings of not having to spend money on these really expensive phones on an annual basis. And I must confess, our phones have been serving us quite well. We buy good quality phones when we do buy. And because we do that, they serve us almost all the way to the end. In fact, sometimes we end up with extra phones that we just have that we now are able to sell or give away. So definitely I would say I don't miss cutting that from my budget. Point 4, another thing I don't miss is fast fashion. So, when you're younger, it's easy to go to like some of these stores that create lookalikes of what is, what has come from the runways or what's on trend, and buying a lot of trendy fashion. And I think this also comes too with getting older and being more confident about my own sense of style and who I am, and realizing that I don't have to follow every trend, and I don't want to follow every trend. That when I discover things that work for my body type or my personality, I lean heavily into those things and then modify from there. And so because of that, I don't spend a lot of time on a lot of money buying fast fashion, things that are cheap. You use them for a little while, maybe 3 or 4, sometimes 10 washes, and then they're unusable. And oftentimes fast fashion used to be quite cheap, but these days it's even getting to be quite expensive, and it's still poor quality and it's still flimsy. So because, I don't participate in fast fashion in that way, I don't miss it. I buy certain signature pieces, and I believe in wearing things and wearing them again, but styling them a little bit different. Jewelry, accessories go a long way. So because of that, I must say I don't miss fast fashion. So cutting that out of my budget was a really good step. Number 5, annual family holidays abroad. Horror. Yes, we do not travel every year as a family. And we did for many years. But I have to confess, somewhere around the time where there was an economic downturn and there was a change of government that intensified and worsened this downturn, I sat down and I realized a couple of things with my husband, of course. And we looked at our children. So one of my kids at that time was 7 years away from university. And people don't think about, I think, the years that think about pre-university years in this light, but maybe they do, but I don't think most people do. And so we sat, and then he was in primary 5, so that's the 5th grade. And I remember saying to my husband, you know, that our first child is 7 years away from university. And if we have to be ready to be able to help him pay for university, it means we only have 7 years left. And then his younger sibling is just 2 years behind him. And then the next one is just 2 years. So we're going to very quickly, once we put the first one in university, 2 years later, we're going to be paying for 2 kids in university. And then, 4 years later, potentially, we'll be paying for 3 kids in university. And it just struck us that what we were spending on these annual holidays to the US was enough to pay for 1 year's tuition. So I said, if we just give up these annual holidays as a family, because we have to buy tickets for everybody, because it's in the summer, it's the most expensive time to fly. Of course, we would shop. We do a vacation within the vacation. We would eat out, of course. We wanted them to have a good experience. My kids were young, so they'd also have to be in daycare during the vacation. So we were spending all this money. And we looked at it that, look, even if this 7 years, we would use that to potentially pay, depending on the cost of his university, at least it would take care of 3 years of university. 7 years, 3 years. If we say each year would take care of 1 semester. So that means every 2 years would cover a year of university, and we took 7 years, we'd take care of 3.5 years. And so we just look, the money we need for university is right there. So we actually went back to our children and we sat with them and we said, look, we're going to have a family meeting. And I said, look, these summer holidays, we love them. We want to go to America. We want to go to England. We want to travel more. And I sat with my son. I go, do you want to go to university? He said, yes, mommy, of course I want to go to university. I said, but that's the money we're spending on the summers. So how about we not go every year and we'll go once every 4 years? And they were like, oh, you could see the joy sucking out of the room. But we now said, but what will happen is one of you will travel every year. And I have a lot of family that travel. My mom travels a lot. My husband's mother travels sometimes. My sisters and my brothers. So I'm like, look, I'll find an auntie and uncle, even if we're not going, that you can go on a trip with, and we'll pay for that. And so what that did was it took us away from having to buy 5 tickets a year to at most having to buy maybe 1 or 2 tickets a year. Of course, my husband and I travel for work, and so we'll continue our work travel. But in terms of vacation, we just have to look for a ticket for our child. And it's worked out really quite well. One child has gone into travel almost every year, and once every 4 years. So far, we were supposed to get to our 4th year, but it was COVID. COVID has delayed it. So funnily enough, we've not taken that family vacation, but we're hoping to once things settle down. But it's helped us a lot in terms of getting and building a nest egg for our son for college. It's also helped them to be more grateful and appreciate travel and the privilege that it is to travel. And what we've done, why we don't miss it, is we vacation locally, right? So we go to beaches in Nigeria, we go to beaches in Lagos, we go to hotels, we spend like a few days, and it's a fraction. It's not even 10% of the cost of one plane ticket. And our kids have learned to love that experience. And with that same budget, we're able to take them out to eat. We're able to take them to nice restaurants in Lagos, and they have a really good experience. So they also have a deeper connection to the city and a deeper love of the city, because they get to see all the best of the city, because we vacation here as if we're tourists when we do it. So because of that, we do not miss our annual family holidays abroad. All right, number 6, we're on the last one now, is buying and ordering takeout on a daily basis. Early in my career, and for a large part of it, my husband's too, lunch, was a rite of passage to being a professional worker. You got that professional job and you get to order from all the nice restaurants around. You get to sample new restaurants as they open. And one of the things we've learned, and funnily enough, I think this was not cut from our budget necessarily just because of money. I think it was also really cut for health reasons. And so, the ingredients that are used in some of these places, the calories, the quality of food, we just found that and once we had kids, we had support at home who could help us prepare our meals, help us package our meals, help us with the presentation of the food. We just like our own food. We like our own cooking. I'm just being honest. And so it was easy to do it. Once we had well packaged and well presented meals, it was easy to take our own food to work and eat our own food and look forward to eating that. In fact, I was just complaining to my husband this morning that we've not gone for date night for a few weeks. And he was saying, no, 2 weeks ago, but we're supposed to go twice a week. So I must say, buying takeout on a daily basis, eating out on a daily basis, we don't miss it. And it's something that if you take the time to buy quality ingredients in your home, and when you have the opportunity to eat out maybe once a week or so, like date night, look at the things that you eat out that you like. A lot of those ingredients, for the price you'll pay for instance, prawns in some of these restaurants, you can go to a shop like the fish shop or a supermarket and buy a whole pack that will make the equivalent of 20 or 30 of these dishes for the price you're paying for this one meal. So I didn't say you shouldn't enjoy the meal. Sometimes we have to pay the price to learn. But what I'm saying is, if you're eating nice food at home, you'll be less hyped about eating out. All right, so those are my 6 things that I cut from my budget that I don't miss. I have one more because you've stayed, and this is the bonus. And people thought this was radical, but I cut out DSTV from our budget about 4 years ago. We do not have DSTV, and we don't miss it. Most of the shows available on DSTV are available on other platforms. And you can't say because you have DSTV, you won't subscribe to some of these other online streaming platforms. So I found that they were a bit redundant. So we cut DSTV from our budget, and I can't lie, I don't miss it. Sorry, DSTV, I don't miss you. Bye-bye. So I hope you've enjoyed these 7 things I cut from our budget. Please give us a like, please subscribe, and please share with 6 people these 7 things we cut from our budget. And don't miss. As I always say, please remain humble and learn. Bye for now.